It's in your interests to expose yourself to as many different forms of stimulus material that you can get your hands on. Challenging yourself and thinking deliberately about how you use each of them to come together with the pre-held ideas that you have from all the work that you've done and all of the different structures that you've experimented with, so that you can come together and write one fantastic piece either for your SAC or for your exam. Today's video is going to take a look at some of the protest material that was seen on the 2024 exam, and using that as a basis for us to get an understanding of what we must do, as well as some other ideas that could help us out along the way. Of course, it's going to be very specific to just this material, but what you'll see from that is that the principles that underlie all of it will help you out no matter what the material is. And so the first thing that will be required of you is that you must write to the title. This is critically important. You have to write to the title that is provided. Now, I want you to see this as an opportunity. They are not going to give you a title that is completely irrelevant to everything that you have studied. But you are also not in a situation where you can go in thinking, I'm going to write this type of piece and it's going to be about these 4 or 5 ideas and it's going to have this purpose and I'm just going to write it no matter what. There's a perfect balance somewhere in between there where you've prepared so many different ways of writing. You've got things that you know work for you. You've got ideas that you like to explore. And when you put them together with the stimulus material that you see on the day for your SAC or for your exam, you're able to come up with something original and fantastic. The title must drive what your piece's purpose and ideas are. It is there for you as a starting point. It's not there to restrict and to say your piece can only be about this, but it must show relevance throughout your writing. If we take a look at the 2024 exam material, the title that was given to students that were studying writing about protest was Resist and Persist. And so taking time to think about those terms, how they work in conjunction with each other, as well as how they work in the context of what we're saying about writing about protest, leads us to all of these different sorts of ideas that come up. Perhaps the persona that you want to take on or the voice that you want to write with as yourself is going to be about how difficult it is to resist the things that are happening within a society, about how effective protest always comes down to persistence and that it can't just be a flash in the pan. These are the sorts of ideas that need to be there and rumbling around in your head. Notice as well that we've got resist and persist. We can't just choose one of them. It's got to be about the idea of both of them coming together. My advice for these types of titles is to bank as many synonyms as you can. Think of different words that have similar meanings to each of these and let that lead you towards some different things that might lead you to different places and different ideas. Whilst we must respond to the title, what you do with it is completely up to you. So there is an awful lot of freedom with where you can go. The material will then give you 3 options after the title. You are instructed to use at least one. And this is where it's really important that you have a clear understanding of how you are going to go about using this material. It is not a part of the criteria for an assessor or a teacher to look at your piece and to say, I need to count how many times they reference each piece of the stimulus material. Nor is it part of the criteria that you've done a fantastic job with it in the way that you did this and made it obvious that you were using, stimulus 1 or stimulus 3 or whatever it might be. The stimulus material is exactly what it says it is, stimulus. It's there to help you. It's there to push you into new ideas. It's there to stimulate thought. And so what that means is that you should not be looking at it in terms of thinking that there's an answer behind it that you must get to, and that the teacher or the assessor is going to be sitting there thinking, oh, everybody knows that stimulus 1 really means this, and if the student didn't put that in, then their piece is going to fail or do a terrible job. That's not how it works. It's there to push you towards further thinking, and therefore you to be able to use it to enhance your own writing and bring out some further ideas. So the instructions there that you are to use at least one, take that as it is stated. If you are really inspired by one particular piece of the stimulus material, then that is fine and that's enough. You don't have to use all three. There's no advantage to using all three, nor will you have done a better job if you directly reference each of them. In fact, in most cases, if you are directly quoting or, just rewriting word for word chunks of what the stimulus material is, most of the time that's going to lead to quite a basic pedestrian sort of an effort. If we take a look at the stimulus one for 2024, it is a short sentence there. If you fell down yesterday, stand up today. Now, we need to be able to take that a little bit further. We obviously are not just there to say, okay, I must put in this quote at some point in the piece. The idea is there for you to think about, okay, this person that I'm going to write about or this idea that I'm going to write about is there to be thought about in a way where they continue to get up despite the obstacles, despite the challenges that are put there in front of people. Notice how just by thinking about that, I've come up with words like obstacles and challenges and these types of things. That is what the stimulus material is there for you to work with. It's there to help you out with those types of things and to lead you to new ideas. If you fell down yesterday, stand up today. So we can already see links to the title as well about this idea of persistence. How much further can we take this idea of, okay, perhaps some of the ideas that I want to write about are going to be about how difficult it is to continue to protest, about the challenges and the obstacles that come up. I can put that together with some of the thinking that I have from some of the mentor texts that I've looked at, some of the drafts that I've written, and I can put this all together in this great pile that's going to come out as this fantastic piece. The second stimulus has been a visual for all four of the frameworks of ideas on the exam, and so you need to get used to working with the visual. It's obviously the most striking thing that we see right from the start, and in 2024 it looked a little bit like this. As you can see, that figure is split in two, a nuanced little detail that perhaps not everybody picks up on the first time that they look at it. And then as we see, there are dominoes falling or blocks falling. And of course, that person is the resistance. They are stopping the rest of them from falling. One thing, no matter what the picture or the visual is putting forward to you, just like I said before, you are not there to have the answer to it. You are there to be inspired and stimulated to some ideas here. So it's not going to be a case of you saying in your writing, okay, I'm going to write about one person who stopped a bunch of bricks from falling over or something like that, but rather the idea of sometimes it takes one person to halt the progress of something terrible so that others can be saved, or that the voice of one person can actually save many if someone is prepared to stand there and not go along with the crowd, whatever it might be. These ideas that I've come up with there about the crowd and saving and these types of things, again, you'll notice they're not directly stated. And that's why it's worth your time practicing with all the different material. You might come up with completely different ideas in response to this visual, and I hope that you do, because then you'll start to understand that each individual's response to these different materials are going to lead them down different paths. And if you're allowing yourself to do that, you'll open yourself up to some really fantastic thinking. We then take a look at stimulus 3, which is a slightly longer written stimulus. If you take a look at the 2024 exam and you have a peek at some of the other frameworks of study, you'll notice that they all follow that same structure as well. A little more lyrical, a little more poetic. People should be discerning in their choice of when to protest, considering the significance of a cause. Channeling energy towards issues they feel are meaningful, rather than engaging in activism for its own sake. So a more elaborate idea there, something that can't just be surmised in the one single sentence. Again, there is plenty that we can get from this. Don't think that you must have to take in exactly what it means as a whole. You could be there to be motivated and inspired by Phrases like activism for its own sake, or being discerning in the choice of when to protest. That could really push you towards some thoughts that you've had earlier on in the unit, or as you've been preparing for the exam or the SAC, that could really light a bulb in your mind to let you think, oh, actually, this is something that I really want to go for. Bottom line, we need to be open to the stimulus material, and we need to practice the way that we respond to it. Part of our preparation for SACs and for exams should be about challenging ourselves to see different things in the material and allowing ourselves to get to different ideas and different written pieces based on the different material that's there. If we do that, it's going to help us build confidence and build a bank of ideas and structures and ways of responding that are going to hold us in good stead when it comes to the assessment. Always keep in mind that the title is your North Star. It is the guiding light for your piece. You must use the title, and it must inform what the piece is really all about. We can't just put it at the top of the page and then write whatever we wanted to write. It must have basis in what the whole piece becomes. After that, we have the choice out of the 3 different stimulus materials that are put to us, and we must use one of them. But by using them, we don't have to just jam it in there and make it obvious, yes, I responded to number 2 or anything like that. Nor do we have to get distracted in our task by thinking, have I shown that I've been inspired by the stimulus material? It's there to help, not for you to always come back to the point where you're not getting to any other ideas. Take a look at it, see how you go, ask some questions down there in the comments if you would like. There's another video here on this channel where I take this stimulus material and I turn it into 2 separate pieces, showing you where you can do a really, really great job of working more subtly with it. I'd really encourage you to check it out and subscribe to the English Lab YouTube channel and take a look around and ask lots of questions if you haven't already. All the best for your study.